What is good, everyone? This is James, the Ghost Set Killer, and this is Put 'em on the Glass podcast. I have a really, really good friend of mine here today. Man, we've not been friends for very long, but bro, I feel you're like family, and I'm so appreciative for you coming on and talking to us. Go ahead and let us know who you are.
Rogelio Castillo. I'm from Michigan, but we've known each other through working through Fixed Network, and I'm in marketing, and I also host a baseball podcast for the last decade or so.
Yeah, what's the baseball podcast? Because I know for a fact that I've got a lot of baseball listeners because of my friend Lee Swindell. He played college ball and all that stuff. So, what's your podcast for baseball?
Tigers minor league report, and also I do another one called Motor City Metrics, but the Tiger minor league report's the main one that's been the more popular one, the one that got us sponsored by FanDuel, which is kind of ironic because I know nothing about sports gambling.
So, you're sponsored by FanDuel?
Yeah, we got picked up. Our network got picked up by FanDuel, and long story short, you're supposed to make it in a natural part of the read. And I don't get me wrong, I'm appreciative of FanDuel, and I know how all that works. But it's so funny because sometimes I have to, you know how the reads go. You have to kind of force your way into it a little bit, and it's a hard time for me to sound organic going. Well, the Tigers right now are +5. And it's like one of those things where the terminology I'm still getting used to, but I don't speak the gambling terms every day.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't either. I don't gamble and I don't speak baseball terms because because my son played, you and I've talked, my son played in college. And once that kind of ended, I kind of quit following baseball. I never played. I did coach for a while. But what my coaching was I was a microphone for cheering. I cheered for the kids, and then I surrounded myself with great assistant coaches. So I'm telling you, if you look at my record throughout the fast pitch, kid pitch, fast pitch, all the way up until through Babe Ruth, right until they got into high school, my record looks phenomenal. Even travel ball. And it's like, I did nothing but stand out there. It was like, yeah, let's go. Come on. Yeah. And then every time we had a talk with them, like the coaches would come in and give them their thing and go over with them what they're supposed to do and everything. Then I'd come in and be like, all right, guys, we got this. Listen, I believe in you guys. This is going to be great. So basically, I was the mouthpiece for cheering on and also talking to the parents. But like my assistant coaches, we went through baseball coaching together for as long as I can remember. And I was thrown into the position because the coach of my son's team just quit. And then I was like, oh, shoot. And the gentleman who wanted to take it over was like, I don't want to be the head coach, but if you coach it, we'll assemble a group of, assistant coaches that can coach for you because I was like, I have no clue what's going on, dude. Like, I really have only watched like a handful of baseball games in my life, bro. Like, I have no clue what's going on. And like I said, I never played, but so key to this one is surround yourself with people who know more than you do, and you will look successful.
Yeah, and that, you know what, and that it applies to marketing too. But for as far as baseball goes, when I coached my son, it was the same thing. I knew what I was doing, but the problem was is that everybody thought because of my legendary temper that I would always lose. I would lose it on the kids and everything, and I never did. I mean, even as much as sometimes they drove me nuts, I wanted the kids to learn and have a positive experience. And sometimes it's tone with what it is with kids. It's tone. If you're mad and that energy reflects off them and how they play. And so I wanted to be as positive as possible, and I wanted to encourage these kids because when I was younger, I was a kid on the bench for a while until I one day I got a chance to catch, and then when the coach was like, "Oh, you know what you're doing," it forever changed me because he gave me belief, and that's why I wanted to give with those coaches. It's just a simple, the energy you bring to something goes a long way.
Yeah. Yeah, and then when it excuse me, when it came to All Stars, that group of kids went on with another coach, and then I took a B group of kids who like they didn't really. I brought one of my assistant coaches along, and they just didn't make the teams because we had tryouts and stuff, but they were still pretty good, and so that was fun. We had an A and B team all through All Stars, and Dalton played in one, but my daughter who just turned 27 yesterday, she played all the way up until Babe Ruth in baseball, and she was on the All-Star team. Yeah, she was a second baseman, dude. She could move, like, and she could read the field. Like, she had a really good IQ of what was going on, and, like, she was pretty good. Now, like, obviously batting, she had a little trouble getting the ball. out, but she could hit. It's just you knew it was going to be like, right there just past the infield kind of thing. And then but she could definitely hit the ball, just wasn't going to go very far. So but anyways, but enough of that. So Roger, your background is in marketing. And you and I worked together. We worked with the marketing team. A lot of the business owners that listen to the show, they're really focused heavily on the social media marketing. I see that a lot. What is your advice to that? And what is your advice to help them grow? Because everybody's kind of in a slow season right now. Excuse me.
Yeah, and it's a thing right now with where you look at how depending on the channel they're using. I mean, for example, Facebook. I know people. Facebook is more like it's a generational thing between that and Instagram, and you have to spend a little bit of money. And what I mean by that is, so one of the things that I've noticed so far is if you occasionally boost a post or two, you don't have to spend a lot of money. It does help your organic reach, and so I know with one of the things too with social media right now it's fighting is the AI kind of content, the AI creation of content, and now there's disclaimers on there. But depending on a channel, just making sure you follow the rules, making sure that A, for something like Facebook, you're using the right hashtags, and B, recommended times of posting. So the biggest thing I've noticed with Facebook, for example, is when you're using pictures that you're using high quality pictures. Now, you and I have talked about this before about photos and how important it is, and it makes difference. I mean, there was a website that I worked on there where those high quality pictures are there as an example. That helps your reach. Now, a lot of times people, it's like, well, the frequency of posting. Not necessarily. If you post once a day, but it's a high quality post, and then you put in strategically time it out, that will help on Facebook. Another thing that helps on social media, depending on your channel too, is knowing the groups, knowing like if you are a fellow business owner, for example, you're not going to like your competition or anything, but look at what your competition's doing. Videos, short form videos, reels, those things also play a big role. And I've noticed where I currently work right now that we've been doing reels and at least about twice a week. And over the last 4 months, actually since I started, our likes and everything has increased or organically. And what's interesting is when you look at some of the dynamics of that, it's non-followers because people shit like, oh, I like this content. They share it and it goes a long way. It's consistency. And that's the biggest thing sometimes what I see with some of the my previous position. If you're not consistent with it because you're too worried about being hyper anal about the way something looks or what have you, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do you any good, but you have to be.
Okay, I took down a couple. I don't know if you see me do this with my fingers, but I took down a couple of notes in my head mentally. I wanted to ask you about one, how do they determine their time of day that they're releasing their post to make sure it's maximized in their market? And then two, what do they need to add in those reels? Do they need to have besides their logo, do they need to have their contact information? So those are the two questions. Let's start with the first one. And it's like, how do they figure out what time of the day is best for them to post?
So on Facebook and Instagram, for example, if you're on those, they have the timing of what's best recommended. So depending on their personal recommendation, you can play with it a little bit. For example, in my line of work, it's 7 o'clock in the evening because that's when the majority of the audience is on. Now, if you're starting out and you're brand new to this, you might have to get a little bit of go around and see what they recommend based off, depending if you're using something like Hootsuite or one of those Sprout. The Sprout sometimes is a little different, but depending on what service you're using. Now, Facebook for us says 7 o'clock, and then Instagram 3 p.m. That's when a majority of our audience is. So best recommendation based off when your audience is participating. The second part of that question, if you want to get your contact information on there, yeah, absolutely. If the best way to get on there is your logo, use the text feature. If you're saying, hey, if you want to do a call to action, because another thing too, I wanted to mention is make sure not all your posts are call to actions like, book now, Have fun with it. Make it organic. Make it, because if you're saying all the time call to action, if you're saying book us now, blah blah blah, it's going to tune out your audience. And I've seen some really good accounts, especially there's one I'm not going to name in your line of work in Washington that is a very family like atmosphere. They post several reels a day, and they do a really good job of getting to know people. And so that's the kind of personalized touch. If you can add a personalized touch to your business and saying, hey, this is Joan. She works the front desk. Joan has her tip of the day or something like that. I mean, if she's as long as she's not like being robotic going, hi everybody, like make it sound fun. Make it, you know what I mean? Like sometimes like
Yeah, I do.
people get caught in their own heads about it. But if you're yourself, just be yourself on those things, it goes a long way. And people can sense BS. And if you're fake about it, making sure that you are mixing in what people want to do, which is book the service, but also at the same time, have a little personality with it.
Love it. That's those are very good things to talk about. But one thing that just struck me right there: what is Sprout and what is Hood? Did you say Hood Range or Hood?
Hootsuite,
Because
Hootsuite. So
Hood Suite. Because as soon as you say that, I think of Hood Rats, and I'm like, what's going on? But you know, that's just that's just my way my brain goes. I'm thinking, wait, are we talking about entering the trap house? What's going on? So what are those two things, Roger?
So
The
those
key to you?
those two platforms are social media management tools. And so depending on your business, so if you're a smaller business, those might be a little too expensive, but those allow you, if you have multiple social media channels, to not to mention monitor your competition. It allows you also to schedule posts and allow you to kind of track your analytics better. It's just a good, it's like an all in one ability to keep yourself on. And also sometimes in certain cases, it even like with AI being what it is, it gives you like, here's a suggested content, like here's a line you can use or something to that effect. So there's a lot of cool tools. Hootsuite's a little less, I don't want to say polished, but it's doesn't have as many tools per se as Sprout. Sprout Social is a mega beast kind of thing. It's like for those who out there are familiar with Salesforce, it's like having a Ferrari. Well, you know what? I'll use it this term. It's like having a Ferrari, but if you only need a Ford Escort, you might want to go with Hootsuite, or just use the tools that your social media channels have already. But you don't need to be a marketing expert. You just need to take a little time and understand. But those two tools help you, especially if you're really busy, kind of automate things a little bit.
So if a shop does get busy, and I know you've mentioned AI a few times, and AI definitely take advantage of the technology. But is it worth a smaller shop that's starting to bring in technicians, or they're a one man and a man and wife shop? Is it worth it for them to hire a social media marketer, a social media expert, I guess like somebody who could come in and like obviously it'd be a younger person than me if I was hiring somebody because I mean, come on, but like, is that worth the expense? I would say, as opposed to traditional radio spots or Roku ads or YouTube ads or something like that. Is it worth it? I guess.
It it really is, because especially if your business is dependent on reviews. Like I know right now, the biggest thing about AI and Google reviews now is that people are searching using AI. Like, hey Google, when they're using the at home feature or whatever the case is, AI is helping search. So if you have a store, if you're a small shop, and let's say you have only 3 reviews and they're all 4 stars or below, you're screwed. I hate to say it that way, but you are. You have to. In we're seeing this too. And I saw this trend when I was working in my previous spot, where the competition in the area was using fake reviews. They had a shop that was open 6 months. Somehow they got 500 reviews. So you have, yeah, and they used to work at that big place that big place that has all the
Mhm.
commercials with the catchy slogan.
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
there. So, they took their practice and abused it. But my point is, the reason why you want to hire or have somebody invest in that is because, let's say you get a bad review, you want to respond with that quickly, with a quickness. Important. Social proof is the first filter. Your Google reviews matter more than your logo. It was a term that I learned in a marketing seminar last year. It really stuck in my head that when people are searching for you, there's some people out there that are gonna look at the reviews and go, well, this guy is just being a jerk, or whatever the case is, just venting about, like, this is a bad place to work. dot, 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 or I had a bad experience here. Hiring somebody there that in a small shop just to help out, it doesn't have to be, it can be part time, just to make sure that, if especially if you're soliciting for reviews, if you're going out there trying to get reviews so you can come up, the reason why it's so important to have 4 stars, a 4.8 is much different than a 4.2. You want to get on the first page of Google. Even with things changing with AI right now, reviews matter. It could be on Yelp, it could be anywhere. Your first impression is how you give the customer experience, and a customer is going to find any way they can to nitpick it, or if they don't get their way, just serve them with a smile, because they can immediately go online and totally kill your business in a matter of seconds.
Okay, so someone does leave you a bad review, and it's an actual bad review, because I'm gonna follow this question up with something else just to kind of set you up. Someone does leave you a bad review. What is the best way? Do you delete it? Do you answer it? Do you respond? How does someone handle that bad review that just isn't really truly a bad review? It's just someone who isn't satisfied 100%.
Well, first and foremost, you want to make sure that if it's somebody that was an actual customer, because we ran into this a few times in my previous position, that these are customers. Sometimes these are customers that I would verify with the manager and go, "Hey, do you remember this situation?" And no, I don't know who this is. And you can dispute to Google so they can take the review down. Sometimes it doesn't work, but if you get a bad review, don't apologize. Just answer it as like, "What can we do better?" I mean, of course, let me say this. You can apologize, but you don't want to grovel necessarily. You want to make sure that you respond like in a professional manner. Thank you for bringing this to attention. We're truly sorry for what happened, or thank you for bringing this to attention, and then kind of go accordingly. And then what's nice about like apps like ChatGPT, even in the free version, you just put the review in and say, how do I come up with a neutral answer? You want to make sure that, because all these people are going to come and search are going to see this. You want to respond to it in a professional manner and say, what can we, and we put a contact information out there. And if they don't reach out, then you did your part. And the only thing you can do is, in that case, diffuse it as much as possible. There's some people out there that are vindictive and they're a-holes, and they want to find a way to just leave their mark. As long as you responded, Google's going to go, okay, well, they did their part. There's nothing else you can do. You just want to make sure you respond in the proper manner, because sometimes you want them to other people that are going to look at this go, well, hey, they tried and they tried to respond to us accordingly. Just don't do it weeks later or anything, because that's also going to make you look bad.
Well, it's going to make you look like not only that you don't care, but that you don't have time to care about your customers. You're so busy, or something else is going on to where you don't care about the customers enough to return that. Because a lot of people, we're service based, we're a service industry. Service is the main thing. Service with a smile, because like I've said before, you're judged by how you clean up, not by how. So you're judged by the experience, not exactly if you did the job correctly. So if you're not responding in a timely manner, it looks like you don't prioritize a customer, in my opinion. That's just my outlook on it. Okay, so now let's talk about it. And a lot of people have felt it. Fake reviews from your competitors, or your competitors' friends, or your competitors' family, or how does one go about handling those ones when they know straight up that it's not their job? They did not do this job, and it's a fake review trying to drive down the area's competition so they can get up on the SEOs.
Basically, what you got to do is just kind of continue to follow up with your current customer base, and give them the best possible experience. I mean, email, like if it's 5 to 7 times more to acquire a new customer than retain one. And so the existing customers that you do have, you work your ass off to service them as much as possible and follow up with them. And I know that's one way to combat it. Fake reviews, you don't want to fall in that practice of saying, "Hey, I got to do fake reviews," because it doesn't. It's not genuine. It's not. And a lot of times when the algorithm figures it out, you're screwed, because Google's gonna be like, no, and things like, for example, Yelp. As much as Yelp is, they're a necessary evil, you can't really do that with fake reviews there. But what you're gonna have to do is just out CEO them, or out SEO them. What I mean by that is making sure that your website's up to date, making sure that you're doing the keyword check. And I know that, like, sitting there going, "Well, I'm just a guy in a shop. I don't got time for that." I understand that. But the biggest thing you can do is there's tools out there that I always share with people that just go that take a couple seconds that are layman's terms, but you want to make sure that if your competition, for example, is having all these reviews and it's all the same ones, make a joke about it. Because if they're going to like where I worked previously, we couldn't have a sense of humor about our competition for whatever reason, to reasons I will never understand why. And I know that you want to take the high road, dot, dot, dot. But in the service industry, not there's a way to go about it and rise above it by being, of course, being better and what have you, but being smarter. And you can be a small group and be smarter by doing the little things, such as making sure, like, if you're out in the community, if you're doing things for the community for free, or you're doing things at a low cost, it goes a long way to service the 4-H club in your area, or putting a sign up in the rec center in the local city, than it is sometimes to spend on the SEO battle. Because people locally, for example, where I worked before in Alaska, there's certain areas of Alaska where sorry, there's banners of where I worked that indicate that we were local in the business and people were connected. That's what matters the most. If your competition's not doing that, look at what your competition's doing. If they're doing all the fake reviews and everything, then you look around the community and you're going, where's their presence in the community? They obviously don't care. I'm not saying that,
Mhm.
well, excuse me, maybe that's too harsh. Do the little things that they're not doing and spend that money that maybe you cannot perhaps on SEO or do those little things, but go on the community, get that banner, sponsor a local softball team, retain those customers, because that you're winning the war. Because the bigger companies sometimes don't completely, they're out to get you and eliminate you completely. The local, but they're not on the local community, are they? No. How many times do you see that jingle company out putting out local banners with their, sponsoring things, stuff like that?
Mhm.
Very rarely. They're more cared about sponsoring a big football team or a big national sponsorship, but locally, that's where you win.
Okay, those are very good points, very good tips. I like that because you and I have had many conversations about. I love the local feel. For me, especially if you're a smaller shop with 2 to 3 technicians, or you only have 2 to 3 locations, that you're servicing a little bit larger area. Being involved in those communities definitely piggybacks on that I care feel for my community. You know, like I have a scholarship I give out once a year at the local high school. This has nothing to do with, it's for my uncle who passed away, but it has nothing to do with business. But it's just something like that, It's $500, and you get your name out there. It comes in on their little brochures. My one friend, he's a huge baseball fan, so he does it at the local high school baseball field. You know what I mean? He sponsors the high school baseball team. And so his banners up in different places. And every time that, they say something about the local teams on the radio or whatever, they'll mention his name. They'll mention his company's name, or brought to you by, or whatever, however you need to say it. But that local feel is definitely, it's definitely worth investing your money in your socials, but also in that local feel and local, like you said, get out. I know your evenings are busy and everything, but get out and help these organizations, because not only do you help your business, but you're helping your community be stronger, and we all need stronger communities, which leads me right into what I'm going to talk about next, which is Rogelio. Your work right now is some inspiring shit, brother. So give us a little taste of what you're actually doing for your community in the Detroit metro area.
So, right now I work for a nonprofit that helps people job placement and basically people within the city of Detroit, kids that are trying to get their GED or high school diploma, and even in the local in the more areas of Wayne County where Detroit is. And what we're doing is we're trying to we're telling their stories. It's one thing that I was hired on, to tell stories, and I could do that through my baseball writing, but this was my first chance to have creative freedom, a freedom that I didn't have before, and the ability to use what I know that works. Case in point, we're working with a local paper that, because we're a nonprofit, and that helps us, that we're able to put some ads in the local paper for free for some of our product services. So one of them we're doing right now is for students that are interested in the construction program. We have 2 programs right now for adults. It's called Rebuild Detroit. So it's a 8-week class. And essentially, if you're trying to get in the construction business but don't know how to go about it, they give you OSHA certified, you get a CPR training, and you also get a stipend. So you get a stipend. So let's say you don't miss class, you get up to $700 that can help you with gas, with whatever you need to basically get you going into whatever, for example, we've given kid these, I don't want to say kids, but some of them are kids, boots, work boots. And so if they're trying to get a job placement, let's say, the teacher we have, the instructor, he's well connected. He's a union guy. So he knows people, and he's like, hey, this guy, I can vouch for these guys because here in Michigan, and you know this in Ohio too, unions matter most, and the word of somebody from the union is bond. And
Yeah,
so
dude, you're going to get a job. If you have a union rep saying that, hey, I vouch for this person, pretty much you're going to get a job, like in whatever organization, factory, construction, anything that, a union's involved in. If you go down that path, and then the union rep says, the training, this, and this is our person right here. This is our person. So you have the job, and you're going to be taken care of for a long time.
exactly. And a lot of times too, what happens is we also help them with the resume. We did a mock interview session last week where I filmed these kids doing mock interviews, and it's hilarious because it's hilarious, not in a bad derogatory way, but watching these kids going, man, how bad was I when I did my first interview? You're like, holy, man, I was horrible. And then you're like, I'm sitting there filming, like, I want to scream out like, dude, go, like, no, 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 no. But at the same time, you want to learn their lesson. So doing these mock interviews is watching them go through that process and then getting the feedback from actual people that work in the field. So we had a company that was out there, and I interviewed him afterwards. We put the interview on, and he said that it's so important to reach out to the community because these are the people that are going to be representing you. And he gave some really good advice to these kids, just basically, making sure your eye contact, making sure that you're talking about yourself. Tell me about yourself. No one cares that you have 4 brothers. I mean, I hate to say that way. Making sure that you get your point across. And then we have something, if you're in it's called Drive Detroit. And let's say you're in the construction business and you don't have a car. Transportation in Michigan, especially in the Detroit area, mass transportation is not like what you see in Dallas or in other areas. Like I will also say Seattle, where buses and everything run. Albuquerque's got, I think, the first free public mass transit system, and I was fascinated to learn that in my previous position. So let's say you're in the construction business, but you don't have a car. You work with you work with a company, and there's a loan that's attached to this, and it's all sponsored by grants. Excuse me. And they'll help you get a car at a low payment. It might not be the world's greatest car, but it's a car that'll help you get to work. And it's a great program for those students or people that are trying to get into work and they can't get to work every day because, let's face it, mass transit in Detroit, while it's serviceable, it might run late. You might not get to the job on time. And as you know, getting there at 6 a.m. is such an important thing. So it's another one of the other services we offer through one of our partnerships that I really think is fantastic.
Yeah, especially in the construction world, if you're one of the first ones on job site, not only does that show to your foreman that you're dedicated, but also shows that you're ready to take on a professional stance. You can kind of relax into the meeting because most construction sites have a morning meeting. They kind of talk about the day, and then they go on about their day. And if you're not there on time because of public transit, and getting your own vehicle is very important, but also, I mean, what I love the most about it, obviously, the interview thing was so cool. Like, I was like, man, like that would have been so dope in my time, because you're right. They did give them like, hey, listen, we hire for these positions, so we know what we're looking for. So please do this, and gave them notes and everything, which was great. But the one thing is that I really like about this, and I think that, some local auto glass companies can invest in this as well in programs like yours. However, they can invest in it because they're going to find potential employees and everything. But it's giving people a chance who feel like everything's been taken from them because of some little mistakes they've made in their past or some choices that they made in their past. And at some point, that person that's homeless or doesn't have a car, or they just need that little bit of light and they're ready to step through it. But when that door keeps getting closed on them all the time and they feel like that they can't, then they give up, and then's when it really spirals out of control. So I love that program you guys they're working with, and I encourage all of my listeners to reach out to organizations like that. These job placement places, they'll help paying for some of the actual wages for if you're giving them a chance, you know, and reach out to the ones that are giving second chances to people that are down on their luck, that are, don't have the cleanest history in the past, but they're looking to change. Yes, not everybody's going to be a star in that group, but not everybody's a fucking star in general public either. I'm sorry to say this. There's some just evil people out there that just, happen to be, but a few bad decisions doesn't make the rest of someone's life. So if you can help them, that's amazing. So I love what you guys are doing there for Rogelio. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I've been in Detroit all the time. There's this stupid stereotype about Detroit that just pisses me off to no end. Yes, there's bad areas, but there's bad areas everywhere. So stop.
Everywhere.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here with that shit. I hate that. Anyway, but there's a lot of times too where if you just, it takes one person, and we had best case, we had an alumni who was a single mom who we had her speak at our was a thing called Amigos, which is like we go out to the it's basically a chance to recognize some of the things we've done with our partners throughout the year. And she was a single mom, wasn't sure what she wanted to do. She did the Rebuild Detroit program, got hooked up with the the electrician union, and now she went from making, barely having a job to now making a comfortable living where it's like $30 to $40 an hour. Life-changing money. She's part of a union. This program helped her. She spoke about it, spoke passionately about it, and you can see the change. I mean, there's pictures of her from before, and now you see her in a different light, and because of this one opportunity she had, because people might have cast her off as being a single mom from Detroit, blah, 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 and all that. But she turned it around, and now, I mean, every time we post anything on Facebook, she'll make a comment about it, and it's so great to see. And it's those things like that. Those are the people that bring it back full circle. The ones that contribute back to your community. The ones that they'll remember, like if you're that small shop that are like, hey, like you guys helped me out, or you guys have been great to me. They're the ones that are going to be contributing to whatever you're doing. The more they can contribute commerce to you, does that make sense to you, James? I mean, if don't you want people around you so you can contribute back to what your business is building?
Yeah, 100%. And with the technician shortage that a lot of shops are seeing, even though they're slow, there are some busy shops that seeing the tech shortage. Get into the job fairs. Reach out to your local high school, vocational schools, adult learning, especially auto glass. If someone's coming out of one of the automotive technologies, they have the mechanical ability to do what we do, and it won't take much to get them up and running. It really won't. And then if you have a solid interview process, you could really, truly hone someone in within a short period of time and get them ready to go, and you know what you have, and they're good to go. With that, we're coming up on 35 minutes. Rogelio, thank you, my friend, for doing this. Obviously, don't hang up because we got to upload. You know about Riverside. But everybody, check out his podcast, invest in your local communities, take Rogelio's tips on social media, and I just want to thank you again for being here. And remember, the best way you can support this show is believe in yourself, be professional, and love each other.